Hello everyone, I'm here today to do weekly reads, and this one I think it's going to be a short one because I have only finished one book this week, but it's also an exciting one because of the book I finished. But before we get into that, I just wanted to briefly mention that the Booktube Prize winners were announced last week, and the winner of the fiction category was Hamnet, and the non-fiction was Cast. I have to say I'm very happy with the books that won. I'm not sure if they were my personal favorites, but I'm happy with the result. They were both in my top 3, so that was great. If you have seen my video about my rankings of the non-fiction category, you will know that Cast was my 3rd favorite, but I think it is a very well-loved book in Booktube, and it is also nice to see that the general opinion of Booktube reflects on the results of the prize. Even if it's not my personal favorite, I think it was still a very good book and a very worthy winner. And in terms of the fiction, I did not have to rank these ones because I was not judging them, but definitely my 2 favorites were Hamnet and The British Star, and I don't know which one goes on top, so I'm very happy that Hamnet won. Maybe I would have been a little bit happier with A British Star, not because I think it's better, but just because Hamnet has already won the Women's Prize for Fiction, so I would like A British Star to win something as well. But yeah, I'm very happy with Hamnet winning. I think it's a great book, and yeah, I'm happy with the results. And also, I mean, Hamnet is also a very well loved book in Booktube, so it also makes sense. So yeah, that's my opinion on the Booktube Prize. I'm happy with the results, and we will see what happens next year. There's already a call for judges, so if you want to sign up, I will put a link down below. I have signed up for the translated fiction section of it. I don't think I'm going to do fiction or non-fiction this year, just because I find the fiction, it's often more popular like books and more American-centered books, and also in the non-fiction there are a lot of American-centered books. So I thought I prefer books that are not centered in the US, so that's why I decided to go for a translated fiction only. I don't know if I will do all the rounds like I have been doing, because there might be other things that I would rather be doing, but for sure I will judge 1 or 2 rounds. So yeah, if you want to sign up, I will put that below. And now into the books. I finished A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth. I have been reading this for months and months and months, but finally I had some time off of other things and I was able to focus on this, and I finished it last night, and yeah, I mean, it feels good to finish it, to be honest. I did enjoy it, but it is a 1500 page book, so at some point it gets a little bit tedious to go through, or like a little bit too much, like you know what I mean. But yeah, essentially this is the story of 4 families in India. They're between Brahmpur and Calcutta, which are in the northeast of India. And the book starts, it opens with a wedding, and we look at the younger sister of the bride, and the mom is telling her, you know, you're next, I'm going to find a suitable boy for you. And she's part of one of those 4 families, and so we follow her throughout the book, and the give and take that her and her mother have regarding marriage, because she's quite independent, she's studying at university, she's not interested in marriage, so we see that dynamic. But that's very surface level, that's not really what the book is about. These 4 families are all pretty wealthy and well placed in society. There is people like parents of all these kids kids, they're around 20 something, and the parents of these people are like, one is a minister, I think, the other one was a judge, doctors. There's quite a lot of wealth and privilege in those families, so we follow them throughout this time, which is set in the partition time in India in the 50s, I think, which is when Pakistan and India split because of conflicts between Muslims and Hindus. So this book looks a lot at that conflict, the conflict with Muslims and Hindus, and like how they interact, and how the two of these groups have their own rules and how that affects individuals. We also look a lot at societal rules like marriage, especially for women, but other things as well, like the relationship between caste and poor people and rich people, and a lot of other dynamics are explored in this book. I really like that there was also quite a lot of focus on not only the men in the stories, but also the women in the stories are quite important and powerful, and we see their stories as well. So we see that also, that dichotomy between men and women in the society, and the traditions that Hindus and Muslims have, and the newer generation that wants to break up with some of those traditions. So yeah, there is a lot of things packed in this. I mean, it's a heavy book. I'm struggling to hold it up, but yeah, it is a lot about the society in this point of time and all of the things that are involved in that. And of course, because these four families that we mainly follow are quite rich and well positioned, we do mainly look at that, but there are points in the book that we also look at lower classes within the society. If there is something that was a bit missing, maybe that was the one thing that I will say. I will have enjoyed to see a little bit more of the lower classes as well. But other than that, I think that this is a very encompassing book of the society in India in the 50s during partition time. Yeah, and also the other thing I will say is that, of course, it is a really big book, and it is very difficult to have steady increase in pace throughout the whole thing, and that does not happen. There are like plateaus, and then there are like peaks of action in certain points, and I think that the peaks were too short sometimes for how long the plateaus felt. Like, there are parts in which we discuss the politics in really good detail, like there are lists of candidates and results of elections in this book at points. That is how detailed it is. There's also some court hearings that we have the whole transcription of the court hearing, and so some of those parts sometimes felt a little bit tedious to me, and having those parts go for maybe like 20 pages and then have like this huge point of action that also only is 20-25 pages felt a little bit unbalanced at points. So I think that especially in the second half, that started to make it feel a little bit long. I think that this could have been a little bit shorter. I mean, I'm not saying 200 pages, but like 1,000 pages will already be 500 less pages. So yeah, I think maybe this did feel a little bit long at times, just because of those plateau parts of like very detailed descriptions of politics or law, or even sometimes like literature and poems. But overall, I think the amount of things that we explore and the amount of things that I looked up based on things that happen here, and I'm very happy that I read this as a buddy read with Jyotsna and Ash and Lauren, because obviously Jyotsna and Ash are both from India, so they were able to give us a little bit more context on that sense. So we were lucky enough to have that background. But yeah, I'm really happy that I read it. I enjoyed a lot of it. I just think it did feel a little bit long at times, and maybe that's also because I read it throughout such a long period of time. Maybe if I would have read this in like 2 or 3 weeks, it would have felt less daunting and less focused on those plateaus. But sometimes, like some days or some weeks, plateaus were all I was reading, so then it didn't catch up in my mind, if you know what I mean. But yeah, other than that, I think it's a good book, and I understand why it's a classic. It's considered a classic already, and why so many people want to read it, and I think I will give it a go. Yeah, I enjoyed it, but I'm also glad that I'm done. So that's all I finished this week. I mean, I had like 500-600 pages left of that last week, and I finished it, and that's all I read this week. It has not been a particularly reading focused week, and that's okay. I still was able to finish that, and I'm very happy I did. And next week I'm also planning to take it slow and easy. So I have 2 books that I want to read next week. I am not in the middle of anything for once, but there are 2 books that I want to finish this week. The first one is Our Sister Killjoy by Ama Ata Aidoo. This is the reread from last month for me. I have already read this, and I really enjoyed it. It's written in a not prose, like there's a lot of poetry like writing. There's also like normal writing, but there's a lot of like rhythmic and poetry like writing in here, and it's very short. It's like 134 pages. So I'm sure I will not take long to read this, but I am very excited because I remember loving it, and then I lent it to a friend and never came back, so I had to repurchase it, and it finally is here. It arrived this week, and I'm so happy that it finally arrived, and now I can read it again. So I'm very looking forward to this one. Ama Ata Aidoo, if you don't know, it's a Ghanaian author, and she's considered like one of the classics of the Ghanaian literature, and she's also a feminist. So what else do you need? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to rereading this one. And the other one that I want to read next week is Something Wicked This Week Comes by Ray Bradbury. And this one I'm reading because it's part of the book club that Sim from Sim Reads started, which I will also link down below. And yeah, that's as far as I know, it's a spooky, very well written book. I don't really know a lot about the plot or anything, but yeah, we all love Sim, and when it Sim starts a book club, you have to participate. So I'm reading that one, and I wanted to read this week so that I get ahead of things. He's also doing with some people like a questionnaire that we fill every 5 chapters, and he asked me to do that for him. So I will be doing that, which probably will give a lot more insight into how I feel about the book. And I mean, he loves all these statistics, data things. He always makes all of these things, and I love that too. So I'm happy to participate, and I'm excited to see what the results of all of these things are. So yeah, I'll update you on that next week. I hope you have been reading something good. Let me know what you have been reading. Let me know if you have any opinions on A Suitable Boy or any of the other books that I talked about. And until next video,